I first want to say thank you. Thank you for coming. Oh, whoa, I'm getting too excited. I'm going to blow the speaker. Thank you for being here. I mean, it is not a small thing to set aside time in your schedule for something like this, especially those out there that are working professionals, parents, moms. It is hard to make time for your creative pursuits. So I say, good job for being here, because you know anything that is difficult usually adds a tremendous amount of value to your life. And I mean, I I have been painting for 17 years, but I will not say that I am an expert on this subject yet. Working towards that, working towards expertness in the creative field. But I am here to offer you everything that I got. And to be quite honest, this was a little bit of a selfish endeavor, because I knew that if I did this thing where I would have to prepare a presentation on creativity, prepare classes on creativity, it would help me in my own creative pursuits. And not only that, but like as you gather people together, you wonderful people that are out there listening tonight, it creates a kind of magic. Like the whole is always going to be better than the individual. And especially in like our Q&A sessions, and I'm going to try to keep an eye on the comments. I won't be perfect at it, but I do promise the last 10 minutes. So I'm going to talk for 30 minutes ish. You might have to rein me in. I tend to be long-winded, but the last 10 minutes, please post any questions that you have so we can turn this into more of a discussion. If I could, I would like have little cameras in all of your homes and you can all share live, but this is good. This is the best format I could think of to do right now. But that connecting, the sharing of ideas is honestly, I think, one of the best things that we can do to improve our creative pursuits. So that being said, I made a couple notes just so I wouldn't forget, keep me on track. I want you, if you don't have one right now, obtain a piece of paper, a pen, or a pencil. I'm a little partial to pens, but a pencil will work too. You know, I'm partial to pens because I have journals since I was 11, and in some of those journals I wrote in pencil. It's never a good idea. You know why? Because pencil rubs, it erodes over time. It gets harder and harder to read. I should probably transpose those old journals right now into pen, just like trace over my handwriting. But so I like the permanency of pen. If you have a pencil, that's cool. If you don't have paper or a pen or a pencil, maybe you could take notes on your phone or your computer or your tablet or whatever you have. I just want you to have a means of writing. We will discuss how writing is very important to me in my creative process. But and I don't want you to write down things that I say. I mean, if you want to write down like a book that you want to remember later that you want to read or something like that, that's cool. But I'm not here to have you take notes about what I say. I want you to have that pen and paper ready, because I'm hoping that in this class tonight, you might get ideas come to mind, thoughts, little bursts of inspiration. And those ideas and those thoughts can be very fickle little things. I think all of you out there know that there has been times when you have had a little burst of inspiration, you didn't do anything about it, and then your kid asks you for breakfast, and the next thing you know, you're like, wait, what was that? What was that again? Can I get that back? So it's to write down things that you feel and or think while we're talking tonight. Okay. Now, in creating this, like I said, this workshop series, this was a creative process for me. I had to draw from old journals, things I learned in college, books that I've read, podcasts that I listened to, and I cut and pasted and curated and put together this lovely little package for you of information on how to increase your creativity. And so I am going to be sharing several books tonight and some quotes from books that have really inspired me. And I hope you will write them down, because this is a really easy way to increase your creativity, is to listen to incredible books while you're doing the dishes, going for a walk, mowing your lawn, whatever. There's a lot of mundane tasks that we have to do every day as like humans. And what's so cool is we're living in a time where we have all this technology available to us that allows us to multitask. And so why not work on listening to a book that will inspire you while you're driving to work or whatever else. Okay, so the first book that I'm going to recommend to you is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And she is best known probably for her book Eat, Pray, Love, because they turned it into a movie, but I've read them both, and this is actually by far like the way better book. But she talks about the creative process as a writer. But what's so cool, and this is one thing that I talked about in Instagram posts like leading up to this event, is that when you're discussing a topic like creativity, whether it's your writing or your painting or whatever, it applies all around to all creative fields. And so I find this book very inspiring. And one thing that she says in her book is this question: what is creativity? Answer: the relationship between a human being and the mysteries of inspiration. Now, why do you think Liz called inspiration a mystery? And I think it's because it's something that we have all experienced, like we all know what it is, but you can't see it. Like you see the fruits of the labor of an idea or of inspiration, right? When someone gets inspired to do something, when anybody does something, then you can actually see it. But until then, what is it? And I think that it's like a flash of light. It's inspiration. I feel like it comes elsewhere. Do you guys like that? Like it doesn't really come. It doesn't, for me anyways, it doesn't feel like it comes from inside of me. It feels like it was something that was outside of me that I held on to, that I grabbed. And Liz goes on to say, I am referring to, let me give you the screen. I am referring to the supernatural, the mystical, the inexplicable, the surreal, the divine, the transcendent, the otherworldly, because the truth is, I believe that creativity is a force of enchantment, not entirely human in its origins. Isn't that so great? And that's why she calls her book Big Magic. Did you know that? Like the word, the title Big Magic is referring to that inspiration that she doesn't really have like a name for. Because if inspiration or creativity exists somewhere else and it then like comes to us, like where does creativity start? So in researching that question, a place that I went is a place I often go for information, and that is the online etymology dictionary. Has anyone ever been to Etym Online before? Okay. If you have not visited Etym Online, I know I should have made a screen for this. Can I spell it? I think so. EYTMONLINE. Just type in etymology dictionary, you'll find it. But you can go and you can type in a word and it will tell you the history of the word. I find this like endlessly fascinating. I'm a word nerd. I love knowing where words come from. And I feel like knowing the history of the word, just like the history of anything, adds context to the word and how I use it. And I love that. So I looked up the word idea for you in the etymology dictionary. And here you go. By the way, when I typed this, when anybody sees the word idea in that font, does anybody else think of IKEA? And maybe it's the orange and the white, I don't know. But I was like, wow, it's like so like, okay, anyways. So idea, 14th century archetype, concept of a thing in the mind of God. Concept of a thing in the mind of God. And then from the Greek idea, which means form, the look of a thing, from idean, which means to see. So I find it fascinating that in some of like the history of the word idea, it has both God and the ability to see listed. And I don't think you have to be a religious person to be a creative person. Obviously not. But for me, my faith definitely adds to my creativity. And I do believe personally that there is a creator, that there is a God, and that he is the creator of all things in this world and also me. And so as I seek to have a relationship with him, he enhances my own creativity. Julia Cameron. Oh, here's another good one, you guys. Okay. Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way. All right. The Artist's Way is phenomenal book. Okay. And she has a very strong faith in God. And she says, I love this. The Creator made us creative. Our creativity is our gift from God. Our use of it is our gift to God. And I really do believe that. I believe that we are children of a divine creative being, and that's why we're all so creative. That's why we love creating, is because it's part of our divine inheritance that came from him. Okay, now I said, I don't feel like you don't have to believe in God to be a creative person, but I do think that it helps to believe in something other than yourself. And Liz Gilbert gives a really great explanation for why that this is the case in her book, Big Magic. And I wasn't going to be one of those people that made a PowerPoint slide that was like super, super long and copy and paste this whole thing. But I am going to read to you this direct quote because she is a writer and she says this so fantastically. And to summarize it would be a shame. So you have to listen to this. This is so great. The Greeks and the Romans both believed in the idea of an external daemon of creativity, a sort of house elf, if you will, who lived within the walls of your home and who sometimes aided you in your labors. The Romans had a specific term for that helpful house elf. They called it your genius, your guardian deity, the conduit of your inspiration, which is to say the Romans didn't believe that an exceptionally gifted person was a genius. They believed that an exceptionally gifted person had a genius. It's a subtle but important distinction, being versus having. And I think it's a wise psychological construct. The idea of an external genius helps to keep the artist's ego in check, distancing him from the somewhat from the burden of taking either full credit or full blame for the outcome of his work. If your work is successful, in other words, you are obliged to thank your external genius for the help, thus holding you back from total narcissism. And if your work fails, hey, it's not your fault. You can say, don't look at me. My genius didn't show up to work today. Either way, the vulnerable human ego is protected from the corrupting influence of praise, protected from the corrosive effects of shame. Oh my gosh. Whoa, dropped my phone. When I read that in that book, I was just like, that is too good. Because in my creative pursuits, I do believe that I have this divine partnership with God. When I come here at the studio early in the morning to work, I start with a prayer and I pray and I say, Lord, I'm inviting you to be a part of this creative process with me. And I'm here to work. So that invitation is extended. Whether you show up or not is up to you. And yeah, okay. So it is big magic when that daemon or that divine inspiration shows up for work. It just I think it's why we're all chasing these creative pursuits, because it's so magical. Okay, now I'm going to share with you a painting that I did about getting ideas as a college student. So I got a BFA in illustration from BYU, Idaho, and I thought I was going to be an editorial illustrator. And so in becoming an illustrator, I was recommended another book that I will share with you. It is called How to Get Ideas by Jack Foster. Okay. And this book is phenomenal. This guy was in advertising, and in illustration and in advertising, you have to come up with ideas like all the time. Like you have a client, you have a concept, you have something you have to say, you have a week deadline. It's like go time all the time. Like when I was in illustration classes, it was like, here's your assignment. It's Monday. Your assignment's due on Friday. Make it happen. And so this book was extremely helpful because he, coming from that really scrappy background of advertising, has so much to say on how to get ideas. And it's not a very long book. I know it looks kind of thick, but it has like it has like illustrations and like sometimes like blank pages. So it's a quick read and it's entertaining. But Jack Foster is the one who gave me this definition for what an idea is. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. So here you go. What is an idea? A new combination of old elements. And so you see that in this painting right here, right? Because we often think of the cartoon character that gets the light bulb in their head, right? But I took that idea and I kind of turned it upside down. And instead of the idea coming to the head, I brought the head to the light bulb. And I love this painting. And, I did it a really long time ago, and it still like resonates for me as a good painting. And I love the concept. And all I did was what Jack Foster said. I took two elements that already existed and then put them together in a new way. So one thing that I want to suggest too is that if we're just recombining elements, there is like an endless array of how you could recombine things. Like I was at the Ninja Gym this morning. I teach an adult ninja class Tuesday mornings at 6 a.m. Anybody wants to come to the ninja playground? But one of the things that we have to do as a coach is I have to set up a balance course every week for my class. And I have, let's say, 12 items that I can use. And I just told my class this morning, I said, isn't it amazing that, you only have these few items and it's the same items in your balance course every week, but the course is always different because how many different ways can you arrange these 12 objects and it's so creative. And that's one of the things that I love about ninjas. Like there actually is a lot of creativity to it. You wouldn't think, but there is. And so just think about how many elements there are in the world that you can draw upon in your creative process. Endless. And I think, and then put aside like your unique perspective. Your perspective on these elements is going to be different than somebody else's. And so you yourself have a unique voice. You have something unique to say. You can say something that nobody else can say. And I think sometimes with creativity, there tends to sneak in this scarcity idea. Like there's not enough to go around, like it never ceases to amaze me, like children, right? When it's Easter, we just had Easter and you put all these eggs out and you go to any kind of Easter egg hunt and there's this scarcity mentality. And it's like, you would think the kids would know after my kids are now like 8, 10, and 12. Like you would think they would know that at the end of the day, here, let me just burst everybody's bubble. Everybody gets like the same amount of eggs, like we make it fair. At least, I don't know, maybe you guys don't, but I do. And yet there's this scarcity mentality. Like I'm not going to get enough. They're going to get all the chocolate and I'm going to get all the jelly beans or whatever. And it's silly, right? As adults, we kind of look at it like, that's silly. Well, can you imagine like God looking down and he's given us like endless amounts of like creatures and landscapes and different sunsets and humans and ideas and experiences and he's helping us to be creative. And some of his kids are like, I'm not going to get any good ideas. They all went with that kid. So there goes my creativity. He stole it. He stole my idea. How many times have you guys heard that one? No one can steal your idea because your voice is going to be different than anybody else's, And I really do think that when it comes to creativity, you need to have this abundance perspective that there is enough and to spare, because having that perspective helps you to become like more idea prone. Okay. So please believe that there is just enough and to spare when it comes to ideas. Okay. Now, this is another quote from How to Get Ideas. Oh, wait, I already used that one. Oh, yeah, I was going to show you guys. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Okay, so this is another another example of where I took, dissimilar things and put them together to make a new concept. This painting is called The Burden. And when I was in school, I was struggling with trying to accomplish all these goals, but feeling weighed down by the lack of time. Anyone else out there felt like that before? Okay. So, but you see how I took stairs, like something as simple as stairs, and used it as a symbol of trying to achieve something. Okay. And then I took a symbol of a pocket watch, and I put a shackle on it. I made it a burden. And here you're trying to get up these stairs, but you're carrying time on your back, and it's making it difficult because you only have so much time and it stresses you. Anyways, okay. So sorry, I forgot to show you guys that. But moving on to this quote by Jack Foster. Okay. So this is from How to Get Ideas. It's actually a quote by Bill Bernbach, head of advertising company. Okay, sorry about that. Anyways, he says, a creative man can't jump from nothing to a creative idea. He needs a springboard of information. And I love this quote because, here I'm talking about there's like a plethora of inspiration out there, and but you need to put in creative inputs to get creative outputs. You know what I'm saying? So you've got to do things to put in the inputs. So, like you have to experience things. You've got to learn things. You've got to listen to things. I made just like a little quick list. You guys could add to this. It's kind of endless, but where do our creativity inputs come from? Life experience, read books, take classes, go for walks, write in a journal, take pictures, sketch, go on vacations, talk to people, live your life, teach a class, read a book you're not interested, ride public transportation, and you could just keep on going. But this is something that I want to point out, and that is, if you always do the same things in the same way, it almost blinds you to the inspiration around you. Because I don't know what it is, but it's something about the monotony of the routine, like sedates your creative sensibilities. You know what I mean? I think we all know what I'm talking about. And so you have to find a way to like shake things up. I have an example of this. So like a month ago, I usually go rock climbing on Wednesday mornings. And so I, had set out all my gear the night before so that I could go, and I woke up and it was snowing in March in Utah. We've had a winter, guys. If you don't know, we've had a winter. And I opened my garage and I was like, oh no, I'm not driving on I-15 in that this morning. And so I was forced into something outside of my routine. So instead of going to the gym, into the climbing gym, like I always do, I happen to live like a half a mile from a rec center. So I just walked my little self up the hill to the rec center. And it's actually where my whole fitness journey started. So it always feels kind of like coming home when I go work out at the Pleasant Grove Recreation Center. But anyways, I was like, they have like an indoor track, and I was running on the indoor track, and this man passed me with the most gorgeous dark curls. And I thought, model. And because I've been working on this biblical painting project, and I've been needing biblical models. And when you're an artist and you need models, your eyes are always like tuned. And so he passed me, and I was like, oh, I gotta go catch that guy. And so I kind of caught up to him. I know you get some awkward situations when you're an artist and you have to find models, but you need the model. So you do what you got to do. You just got to bring on the vulnerability and the awkwardness. So I kind of followed him over to like this like freeway area, and because I had to see his face, right? Because I'd only gotten the backside. So we had to confirm that the face would actually work with the curls that I saw in the back, and the face confirmed that he would also make a great model. And so I just went up to him and I was like, excuse me, sir, are you a religious person? He was like, yeah. And I was like, so I'm actually an oil painter, and I'm going to be working on a biblical painting. And I was wondering if perhaps you would model for me for this project. And he was like, I'll think about it. And I was like, great, cool. Can I have your number so that I can text you more information? Yeah, I get to pick up on guys and get their numbers still. Yeah, my husband loves it. No, he actually does encourage me. Well, this is a tangent. I won't tell the tangent. But anyways, he gave me his number and he is modeling for me for this project. And I thought, it's kind of cool. Like, what if I had just continued with my routine, like normal? I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet that man or see that model. And another example that I have is from Liz Gilbert. And she says, whatever else happens, stay busy. Find something to do, anything, even a sort of creative work altogether, just to take your mind off your anxiety and pressure. Once, when I was struggling with a book, I signed up for a drawing class just to open up some other kind of creative channel within the mind. I can't draw very well, but that didn't matter. The important thing was I was staying in communication with artistry at some level. I was fiddling with my own dials, trying to reach inspiration in any way possible. Eventually, after enough drawing, the writing began to flow again. And I love that example that she gave because she increased her creative inputs by doing something out of the ordinary that she doesn't usually do. And so once you've got all these inputs, I'm talking about put yourself out there, do things that are uncomfortable, change up your routine, keep your eyes open, do something out of the ordinary, then what? Well, you've got to have a way to process your inputs, because it's not enough just to experience all the things. If you don't process it, so what? And so this is where writing comes in for me, is that writing allows you an elevated perspective from the monotony of your daily life. It allows me to view experiences from an outside perspective. And I tell you that every time I do, I feel like God adds another layer of understanding or meaning to whatever I just experienced. I had someone in one of the survey questions ask me, how do you get so much meaning in your art? Or, how do you know what to write about every day? And honestly, the more you write, the more you know what to write about. I I've just been doing it for so long that I actually never ask myself what to write. But even if you don't know what to write, try to just capture your thoughts. Like, I don't know what to write. I've literally tried to capture free flowing thought before, but it's especially as you're seeking new inputs or trying new experiences, write about those experiences, write about how you feel, write about when you were uncomfortable, write about what you learned. And it's seriously it's the best way I could recommend to you to get creativity, to get ideas, to get inspiration for whatever you're doing. Okay, I'm going to share one more example of how writing has allowed me to get to process my inputs, and then we'll wrap this up. So I was in India a week ago. My husband and I went for a wedding. If you follow me on social media, you got all the fun videos. And on a Saturday morning, my husband and I went on a jungle hike in the Western Ghats of southern India. And we had a personal tour guide to take us through, because we literally were not on trails most of the time. I was always thinking wow, Reggie really knows where he's going, because we're not on any trails right now. He would just we'd start on a trail, and then our guide would just take off in whatever direction he wanted. And anyways, before we started our hike, he said, you need to have leech socks. And it looked like, imagine someone handed you some Christmas stockings made out of cotton. Okay. They were that exact size. And you have to take off your shoes and put these cotton leech socks on, and then you tie them right below your knee. And then I'm saying, how am I going to fit this whole sock inside my shoe? Because it was really baggy, but you just shove that thing in there and it was okay. And we're walking, and my husband's like, wow, Jen, we're probably going to have to go through some water if we have to wear leech socks. And I'm like, yeah, that's weird. Okay. And we were about an hour and a half into our hike. And my husband said, oh, Jen, it's an inchworm. Come see the inchworm. And I was like, cool. I love inchworms. They're so cute. So I bent down to look at the inchworm. And our guide, Reggie, says, don't bend down. Don't bend down. That's not an inchworm. That's a leech. And I went, and it's amazing how your perspective can shift that fast. Like you just thought, oh, how cute an inchworm. And then you're like, oh, gross. It's like a blood-sucking parasite. But then what was so funny is then I looked down at my feet and I hadn't realized it until that point that my feet were covered in leeches. Yeah, it was so gross. And then like I'm like all of a sudden so concerned that these leeches are going to climb up the leech socks and over the cuff below my knee and into my pants and find their way down my pants and the whole time you're having these visions that leeches are like sucking on your toes, and so it was getting really difficult to enjoy like the flora and fauna. Okay, now I'm going to share with you how writing this experience in my journal added a layer of meaning. And I don't really think it would have come if I would have just experienced it and then moved on with my life. It's the pausing and taking the minute to process the input that I think opens your brain, your mind, your spirit up for inspiration on other higher levels of meaning or parallels or metaphors within your own experience. Okay, so we tried to follow Reggie's advice and kept our eyes up. Oh, so yeah, so our guide, he goes, he noticed how much we kept looking at our feet and like we kept trying to like pull the leeches off of our feet with our other feet, And Reggie, our guide, said, "Don't look down." And he was, trying to let us know that we tried to follow Reggie's advice and keep our eyes up for the most part. But it was hard to not let your mind wander and wonder if somehow leeches had gotten past your leech socks and your normal socks and were now sucking on your toes. I was amazed at Reggie's ability to see things in the forest. We saw wild cows or Indian bison grazing. We saw a deer, a fawn, and the father. We saw beehives high above in the tallest trees and a wooden peg ladder locals would climb at night when the bees were sleeping to harvest the honey. We saw egrets and a very rare laughing thresher, a bird people would travel to Kerala to see because it was the only place in the world that it existed. If Reggie hadn't been with us, I would have walked past them all. I kept telling Reggie how amazing his eyes were, and he said, "I hike through this forest every day. I've trained my eyes to see." I'm pretty sure there's another life lesson here. You see what you train your eyes to see. Do you want to see leeches or exotic birds? Are you going to look down or are you going to look up? Also, make sure you wear your leech socks. Put those protections in your life. Put in the spiritual work to protect yourself from spiritual leeches and trust in the safeguards. So that's just another example of, how when you write, it helps you see those cool connections. And when we got to the end of our hike, my feet were still covered in leeches. And so our guide got some tobacco powder and I guess it's kind of like salt and slugs, it kills the leeches. And then we like pulled our shoes off and sure enough, there were bunches of leeches inside my shoe. And you just think, man, if I wasn't wearing those leech socks, that would have been so bad. I actually have a video of it. I'm not sure if it will work, but should we try? If it doesn't work, then you can just find this video on Instagram. But okay, let's see. We'll test. No? Let's see. Play. Nope. Not gonna work. Check out the leech video on Instagram. Oh, wait. I could probably show it to you one more way. Let me see. And we go here. Oh, here we go. Here's the video. See? Look at that cute inchworm. Isn't it cute? Oh, and then you notice them all over your shoes. Not so cute this way. Yeah, that's not so cute. No, that's gross. That's gross. Oh, and there's your sock. Oh, look at your sock. Yep, those would have all been sucking on your feet. That's Reggie. Okay, so time for homework, and then we'll do Q&A. Oh, I went over a little bit. Sorry, guys. I actually am pretty proud that I reined it in as much as I did. I am an over talker for sure. Okay, homework is actually 2 parts. Oh, I have a slide for this. Okay. Homework time. I don't know why it's now not. Anyways, okay. 1, do something this week to gain new creative inputs. 2, process it through writing or drawing. Okay. So that's pretty wide open. But I can't wait to hear. Maybe we could start like a little bit early, like 10 minutes early next week, because I would love for you guys to put in the comments some of your experiences. Just doesn't have to be long, but I just want to know like what you guys do. So even if it's just like walking to the grocery store instead of driving, like who knows what might happen on your way. and then write about it or draw. Just some way of like processing it on paper that you can keep. And that's one thing about writing is that like I love that it preserves the inspiration, because you don't always have time to do that painting right away, you know? And so I really do go back and read my journals, and I am inspired by them. And so I hope that helps. We are now going to do 10 minutes of Q&A. It's 7:40, so at 7:50, I'm going to have to cut you off. But if anybody has a question, I will now divert my attention to the comments section, okay? Let's see. Oh, Tammy, you're going on a trip for 10 days to Florida. You're going to get all the creative inputs. Please write about it. Oh, and something else that I like to do in my journals, like I'll show you my India trip, is I will save my boarding passes. This is like tickets into museums. This was like a coaster at our hotel. This was like cut out of like a brochure. So I'm a little bit of an original scrapbooker, you could call me, because I feel like these kind of little artifacts will add so much to the, I feel like I'm illustrating, but with scrap. So when you go to Florida, Tammy, get some scrap. I want to see some, if you want to. I think it'd be cool. Okay. Any suggestions on how to get out of a time scarcity mindset? Yeah. I think everybody can relate with a time scarcity mindset. But I will tell you something that has helped me. It takes a little bit of faith. And this is one thing that I have learned, and that is that like when it comes to painting, at least, time is not all equal. I could have 1 hour where like the spirit was flowing. I like the creativity juices were high, and I just like feel like I just got a week's worth of work done in an hour. And other times I've had days where you know, my husband's watching the kids or they're at grandma's and I have 8-hour block, and somehow I'm just like, feel like I'm beating my head against my easel, get like nothing done, right? Okay. So if time is not really equal when it comes to creative pursuits, that's where I feel like faith comes in, because like I said, I try to invite God to be part of the creative process. And part of that faith involves that he will help you get it done when you need to get it done, and that your time will be enough. Another thing that I would say is that as a mom of children, like I've had 4 kids, and there were so many days where my time was interrupted. Like I would get up at 4 to paint, and my sweet, sweet daughter is an early riser like her mom. And so I get up at 4 to paint, and she was like 5 years old, and she'd be coming down the stairs to my studio at like 5 a.m. And I'd be like, no, go back to bed. Please go back to bed. And there'd be times when you just barely gingerly like place your baby down for a nap, and then like you sneak away to go get your work done. You like barely mix up your paint, and you just go to start, and then you hear a baby cry, and you go. So I told myself as a young mom, listen, the goal is to be a little bit better today than you were yesterday. It doesn't mean it just means a little bit better. It means 15 minutes better. It means 10 minutes better. It means you do whatever you can. And so there were days that I literally had 15 minutes to paint. And instead of being depressed, like I could only paint for 15 minutes, I chose to switch my mindset and say, you got to paint for 15 minutes. Congratulations, Jenedy. You're 15 minutes better today than you were yesterday. And you know what's amazing? If you times 15 minutes times 30 days in a month times 365 days in a year, it's actually a lot of time. And I've been so amazed that as I offer whatever I have to God, like this is my time offering to work on this project, I feel like it's always enough. Somehow he makes it okay. So that's my time scarcity answer. Okay, I got a lot more now. I lost track of where it was. How do you pay your models? With cash, with through Venmo. I haven't always been able to afford to pay my models. And when I couldn't, I would just offer them a full-size reproduction of the painting. And most people are pretty honored by that, you know. Anybody else? Someone's going. Elisa, you're going to France. That's so cool. I've never been to France. I've been to a lot of places, but never France. So that's going to be really cool. All right. How do you not get overwhelmed with the ideas you have? Like I get so many ideas, but sometimes, and it's amazing, but then I'm like, there are too many, and then I feel paralyzed. Okay. Wow. I'm realizing that a lot of my answers have to do with God, but like I said, my creative pursuit is really tied to my relationship with God. I feel like we are partners in this, and so I try to follow the inspiration that I feel is coming from His direction, and try to focus on what He wants me to do. That being said, I have had times. Actually, I have a time right now where I'm trying to work on this Strong Women project, but I'm also working on a big biblical painting project. And that can get difficult. But I don't work on the same painting every day. And so I'll try to kind of like reward myself. Like if I'm working on a commission for a client, I'll say, okay, I'm going to work on this, make a goal, like make a small goal. Like I'm going to try to get the first layer done on this painting. And when I finish it, then I'm going to reward myself by spending a painting day working on a painting that I want to do. But then I also like kind of keep a little tally on my phone, like, you know, like the notes section on your phone of like painting ideas. And so that when I get an idea, I don't lose it. And that's like, you could do it in a journal. And I know that one day I'll get to it, maybe. Like after I finish the Strong Women show, I want to do a show about children, like strong kids. And so I'm kind of keeping a little note section on my phone of concepts that I would do for that. So yeah, I mean, all I can say is write it down so that you keep the ideas and then just plug at them like one at a time. All right. The atonement of Jesus Christ covers all things. You're right, Livia. What other artists give you inspiration? Oh, a lot. I love David Kassan. If you're not familiar with his work, David Kassan, Kassan, he is phenomenal. He did a painting of Jewish survivors from the Holocaust that super, super moved me. I flew out to San Diego to see the originals in a show, and it was phenomenal. So I love him. I love Allie Kavanaugh. She's a watercolorist, and we've kind of been friends for a very long time. We like started painting around the same time, but she's a watercolorist that does like, wow, just really cool things with portraiture and watercolor. And I guess I have this artistic envy for her work because it's so different from mine, but I love it so much. I love Norman Rockwell. I love J.C. Leyendecker. If you're not familiar with J.C. Leyendecker, he was kind of like a mentor, like a predecessor to Norman Rockwell. And you can see a lot of Leyendecker's influence in Rockwell's work. I love Waterhouse. I love going to museums and seeing Caravaggio and Sargent and Bouguereau. If you need like an overload of inputs, visit a museum of any kind. Other favorite, I honestly love Mary Sauer's work. She's a local artist here in Utah. Her work is fantastic. I love Casey Childs, another local artist. I love Casey Baugh, Baugh. He's a New York artist. And actually, I'm so excited because in May, I get to go to the Portrait Society of America's like national conference in Washington, D.C. And it's so cool because they have this face-off event where all these artists that I love all paint from a live model at the same time. And you can like walk around and watch them all create a portrait in like different styles at the same time. It's so cool. Okay. What led you to change your creative medium from illustration to painting? Oh, that's a good question. So yeah, I graduated and am fully thinking I was going to go pursue an illustration career. And my husband and I were living in southeast Idaho at the time. Graduated from BYU Idaho, and then my husband got a job in Los Angeles, and so we moved to California. And I went to Art Center just as like a reconnaissance mission, just to get some advice from some of the illustration professors there that were like working in the area that I was going to be working. And they basically just told me like, sweetheart, if you want to be an illustrator, you're just going to have to work digitally. It's like, and I had taken digital illustration classes, but I just loved painting so much, like just oil painting, working with the paint, getting dirty, playing with textures. And so I just knew that I couldn't work behind a screen my whole life. And so it was kind of like, that's what made me decide, like, I think I'm just going to paint. So I call myself a self-proclaimed fine artist. I just decided, like, I'm just going to paint and sell paintings. And so I started doing like little small paintings and selling them on eBay. And that's how it all began. Bless those souls that bought those very early unfinished paintings of mine on eBay. Okay. Right. Liv, I have idea journals and a Google Doc for inspiration. Ask God, is this for now? Sometimes just the act of recording the inspiration is your step to show him you're listening. That's a good answer, Liv. That's good. Lena, I email my ideas to myself and keep a folder in my email with them all that I refer back to. But some things I don't feel inspired to do anymore, but others have held the passion. That's good too, Lena. All right. We'll make this our last question. What's a personal experience that has had a big impact on your creativity and why? That's a loaded question. I have two big answers to that. Which one should we go with? Okay, I'm going to go with the heavy hitter. So in 2011, like most of you, I don't know if all of you know my story, but I think a lot of you do. In 2011, my son fell in a swimming pool and passed away. And up till that point, painting was just like, it was a joy. It was something, it was like a escape from the rigors of early motherhood. It was a way that I could make gifts for people in my family and to earn a little bit of money on the side, especially when my husband was in grad school. And that's what painting was. And then after my son passed away, I felt like I had all these emotions that were like so big that like they were going to destroy me if they just stayed inside. And so I felt like I needed a way to release them. And so painting became a totally different thing for me. I would get up early, go to my studio like 4, turn on music, and then just cry and paint and cry and paint. And so that experience changed painting for me forever, because I think it really enabled me to see this really strong emotional connection that I had with painting, and that painting could save me in a way. Like it could offer a means for me to have an outlet for things that were too big to carry. And of course, my faith is a part of that too. And what I realized that was when I painted these, when I released onto the canvas all these things that I was carrying, all this sorrow, all this grief, is that other people, I realized I wasn't alone. I realized that other people had been through hard things too. And that when they saw my work, they connected with it. And it helped other people grieve too. And so this higher purpose kind of evolved in my artwork. And And something that was so incredibly painful became a catalyst for remarkable growth in like all aspects of my life. And I don't know what it is. Well, I do know what it is. But when you're having a difficult time, is when I often feel like the most creative, you know? And I think that's part of it is because creativity is a release. It's like a relief, an escape, uh, a way to process when your inputs are too much. When the inputs are too much, it offers you